News experts have projected that Nigeria's headline inflation would moderate further in October 2025, extending the downward trend recorded in recent months. Analysts attribute this moderation to a mix of stabilizing economic factors, particularly the relative steadiness of the currency, improved foreign exchange liquidity, and a steady inflow of food supply as the country enters the harvest season. Director of Research and Strategy at Chapel Hill, Denham, Mr. Tajuddin Ibrahim, explained that these factors are expected to exert significant downward pressure on prices across key consumer categories, resulting in a more subdued inflation figure moving ahead.
I believe that it is likely that we see an inflation rate of 15% before we end this year. Given where we are currently, when we look at September inflation, that is printing at 18.02%. And I believe that if we look into the next few months, it is likely that we are going to see inflation rates print as low as 15%. For context, for us at Chapel Hill Denham, we have a forecast of 16.24% for inflation in October. And if we capture the expectation around sustained disinflation into November and December, we reckon that inflation comfortably could be around 15% or before we end this year. And I believe that is what Nigerians should really watch out for.
The Petroleum Training Institute has cautioned against the haste to abandon fossil fuels in Africa, despite growing global calls for an energy transition. Speaking at a press conference in Abuja ahead of its conference on hydrocarbon science and technology, the institute emphasized the need for Africa to prioritize research and development of homegrown technologies that can support the sustainable exploitation of its oil and gas resources. The institute notes that global demand for fossil fuels is projected to remain significant for at least the next 50 years, making it crucial for Africa to balance environmental concerns with economic realities. The conference aims to serve as a platform to guide stakeholders in identifying emerging opportunities, addressing key challenges, and promoting sustainable development in the evolving energy landscape. Well, in other news now, the Equipment Leasing Registration Authority and the Bureau of Public Procurement have signed a memorandum of understanding to formally integrate leasing into Nigeria's public procurement framework. The development was disclosed in a statement by the head of media and corporate communications at the ELRA, Mr. Debola Brocklis. According to him, the chief registrar of the ELRA said the agreement is aimed at promoting transparency, efficiency, and fiscal discipline in government procurement processes. As part of the agreement, both agencies will collaborate to formulate policies, guidelines, and develop standardized documents that will support lease-based procurement across public institutions.
The area of equipment leasing to ensure that those who will do businesses with them, those who will go into this sector, must show evidently that they are registered with Equipment Leasing Registration Authority. It's something that they have to do, and BPP will be at the back of the authority to ensure compliance. What that means is, if I don't see evidence that they've registered, what that means is non-compliance, then I will not be able to issue appropriate certificate of no objection because of non-compliance.
The impact of this would reduce physical pressure, enhance service delivery and improve asset management, aligning perfectly with the Renewed Hope agenda and Nigerians' drive for economic diversification.
Let's take you outside our shores now. Nickel led Asia's market today as Japan looks close to installing a new prime minister, while a reading on U.S. inflation this week is expected to be more than a speed bump on the way to further rate cuts. Data showed China's economy grew 1.1% in the third quarter to top forecast, while industrial output also bit with a rise of 6.5%, which could reinforce Beijing's determination to fight a lengthy trade war with the United States. Japan's Nikkei led Asian higher with a jump of 2.8%, encouraged by news of Liberal Democratic Party and the Japan Innovative Party that have agreed to form a coalition government, setting the stage for the country's first female prime minister. Shares in South Korea added 1.0%. MSCI's broadest index of Asian Pacific shares outside Japan firmed 1.3%. Chinese blue chips gained 0.8%, having lost ground last week. Eurostock 50 futures added 0.7%. DAX futures firmed 0.7%. FTSE futures 0.3%. For Wall Street, both S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq futures rose 0.3%, with much riding on how earnings unfolded this week. China's economic growth slowed to its weakest pace in a year in the third quarter, as fragile domestic demand left it heavily reliant on its exporting factories, raising concerns about deepening structural imbalances. While the 4.8% growth rate met expectations and kept China on track to reach its target of roughly 5% this year, the economy's dependence on external demand at a time of mounting trade tensions with Washington. Beijing may be using the headline resilience in growth as a show of strength in talks between its Vice Premier He Linfeng and U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in Malaysia in the coming days, and a potential meeting between President Donald Trump and Xi Jinping in South Korea later. The president of the European Central Bank said the world's economy has yet to feel the pain from President Donald Trump's tariff. Speaking on CBS Face of the Nation, Ms. Christine Lagarde said that at some point, exporters and importers will no longer accept smaller profit margins caused by tariffs and decide to raise prices. Regarding the global economic impact of higher U.S. tariffs, the EU president stated that the full negative effects are yet to be felt. Currently, both U.S. and European companies are absorbing roughly 2/3 of the tariff cost by reducing their profit margins.
In transformation.
Transformation,
I think, caused by a couple of things. One is the tariffs, which have changed the map of trade around the world and reconstituted new alliances and reformed the way in which we trade with each other. I think the second major transformation is the impact of artificial intelligence on everything we do, from data management to dating and everything in between. I think we're yet to feel the pain. What we observe, I'll give you some numbers. From Europe to the United States, our goods to the US consumers had a tariff of 1.5. With the tariff that was decided by the US administration, it's gone up to 13%. So the question is, where does this additional 11-ish percentage point go? At the moment, it's 1/3 on the exporter, so the European company, 1/3 of the US importer, and 1/3 of the consumer.